just a brick in the wall.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Here I am with High Voltage News.
Just bricks in the wall.
Eugene Roundtree, another brick in the wall. Here I am on my morning commute, going to my 12-hour shift once again, just like all of you guys. We got Korn's brick in the wall here. And we want to bring your sarcasm in the classroom. That's what shades the humor of today. You feel like you're just another brick in the wall? Does it matter what country you live in? Right now you're seeing things take place in the world that point to a corporate fascist dictatorship. You often look at the dollar bill and you get that stereotypical trademark tinfoil hat guy saying, hey, a lot of freaky things in that dollar bill. You see that pyramid? It's got that eye in there. Well, the Latin stands for New World Order. I don't care what you say, but they keep printing it that way. And if you look, you'll see America's hands in everything, from Venezuela to the Middle East to Ukraine. You click back 20 years, U.S. hands is in regime change everywhere. 40 years, 50 years. Alright, so why does it matter? Well, if you don't like the laws, make new laws. If you've got a layer of authority that you need to get around it. Create something that trumps it. What does this all mean? Well, let's go back to the corporate fascist dictatorship. It could be a dictatorship, it could be a group of people. You take your Fortune 20 companies, you take your Fortune 100 companies, and basically you create a corporation so you don't have to have any personal liability. Well, isn't that convenient? You can do whatever you want, and the entity known as the corporation is at fault. Yeah, they might pay a fine, but that corporation is not going to sit in jail. That corporation is not going to get a death penalty for murdering people, i.e. Monsanto, if it ever harmed anybody. Hence, you got legislation getting passed by government through the branch that passes law in the legislative branch, protecting corporations at any given time. Remember last year in May 2013, they tried to hide some stuff in for Monsanto protection. Then they did more of it the same a few months later. You get the meaning. So, you've got country lines that are drawn on a map, right? And supposedly everybody in that country has to abide by the rules of the country. Well, sometimes a different country, more powerful, or a corporation which can span over the country lines, needs a resource. Or they just want it out of greed. Well, into the corporation. But there might be an issue. Okay. Well, there might be some laws. You just need to get a couple government officials bought off, or on your side. They'll take care of that for you. And boom, you got a back door into their country borders. Then, the flip side is, there's a good chance your people have been sold out. Your people in the country just lost a natural resource. Or, they just had their landscape bombed over. Well, what if little Richie, 10-year-old boy, wanted to have dreams of owning a farm someday? Well, you're not going to own it in that spot, because that is now rubble. How often does this happen? Well, quite too often, actually. And it's not as if our leaders are stupid. Although you might say they are, because they're so darn greedy. It's more or less the fact that they are corrupt, they are evil, and they just want money, power, wealth, control, and it doesn't matter how they get it. So that's what you're dealing with. You have to ask yourself, are you just another brick in the wall? I mean, we all get like 80, 90 years of life on this planet. unless something different happens. You're going to live that whole life of 80 or 90 years like a brick in the wall? What can you do about it? I don't know. I kind of want to kick them in the nuts every time I see one. And I don't know if I'm walking on the street, if they happen to brush by me, whether or not I would or not. But we can vote them out of office in our country. It seems like we have a lot of 51 to 49% votes for the presidential race. And you know that's just a token once every 4-year vote, right? Even if you were on his side, a lot of people don't even approve now. A lot of people didn't approve after Bush, too. Or Clinton. So, it really goes back to the fact that you really live in a republic, and each state can take care of business. What's your state doing? What's your state representative doing? They only get a couple years in office. Or, they're either so bought out by everybody that they get like 40 years in office. Heck, Harry Reid may as well be king of Nevada. Ted Kennedy may have well have been king of his own state. You get the point, right? Ted Kennedy, it's pretty much proven that he killed a woman driving drunk and repeatedly drove drunk. Granted, most of America is guilty of that. But you see the difference. If you're not batting with the team, and you don't get helped out by the team, it's a definition of corruptness. A lot of people would say corporations are messed up. And they know that the corporate enemy is there. It hurts small business, it hurts your entrepreneurship, competition is a little bit skewed, a little bit is used lightly. Remember the bailouts in the 90s. It almost sets the stage for things that are happening now. If you take care of all the big CEOs with golden parachute balloon payments, they're in for a year or two, they do whatever they need to do for the cause, they move on. You don't hear about these guys again. Remember, Hewlett-Packard had tons of CEOs in a short time. And it almost came in waves. You had Enron and energy going on. That doesn't get talked about much, but what are the after effects of that? How's your energy bill? You've got corporate stuff going on with the CEOs. Then you've got the banks getting bailed out. And I would have to say, the way things look now in the power structure, you've got the World Bank, you've got the elites above that, you've got banks, then you've got corporations, then you've got governments. And that's kind of the hierarchy that I see. And if you were royalty or you were super elite and had all this money in a foundation like Gates or Rockefeller or whoever, would you really want to be doing the bureaucratic BS work? Sitting behind a desk pushing papers, passing laws? No. You want to sit on your laurels. That's why the government's like a third layer. I wouldn't want to do that either if I was rich. Although, if you really want to think about it, if it's a government for the people, by the people, for we the people, it's us that should really be in the government pushing the paper and passing the laws for the people. But right now it's like a top-down hierarchy. It's not a bottom-up hierarchy, which is the whole reason we claimed our independence. You know that the Fed was created and the IRS was created, and if you look at the history of it, a lot of that was done on Christmas break, while half of Congress, if not more, was at home with their families, who they represent, enjoying Christmas break. And then they passed this huge law that for about 80 or 90 years has enslaved everyone with taxation and usury. So, it's sneaky little things like that, or throwing in this little sentence in the middle of a 1,000-page bill that doesn't even really regard what the bill is about. I'm talking about the Monsanto Protection Act of 2013. So, if you think about it, it's easy to see how the hierarchy is laid out. The 1,000-page Obamacare. Really? 1,000 pages. You didn't read it. You passed it. Everybody knows it's horrible. You gotta be kidding me. Really? I could give you 1,000 pages and pass it as law, and later tell you, yeah, you owe me everything you've worked for. You owe me it all. Or, you can't do this, and you can't do this, and you can't do this. Well, it's in the thing I passed. No, none of us read it, but you gotta do it. Really? That's worse than the king's decree. At least in the king's decree, back in the day, they would post it on the wall. They would post it on a tree. You knew exactly what not to do to upset the king. You don't even get that now. And that's the thing. They've taken red tape, which there was already an abundance of, and they've made camouflage red tape. It's horrible. It's deceptive. It's chaotic. It creates smokescreen, confusion. But the people on the inside always know what's in that red tape. They always know. So they can find the little spots, the nooks and crannies, where they can work, what's allowed. Not that that would matter anyway, because they would break it even if it was there and they weren't able to find a way. You get it, right? If you don't believe anything of what I'm saying, that's fine. I don't really mind. Everybody's on a different learning curve, and everybody's given the information that they're given for a reason. Now, for a long time, you can look around and you can wonder why things are the way they are. Alright, this guy's poor because of this guy's rich because of this guy's happy because of this guy's unhappy because of this. We all have the same faculties to judge what's around us. But the problem nowadays is that a lot of it is fed onto us. For the longest time, if you looked at my Facebook posts, you could see that I was watching CNN and Fox News. Well, I thought I was doing the right thing by checking what is stereotypically the liberal side versus the stereotypical conservative side. Okay. And then I started to see differences within both that weren't really representing what they should be representing at times. I also saw what seemed to be a lot of similarities in some ways in what they would put out. And then I started looking at news from around the world and realized they aren't even sticking a lot of stuff in here. And then you start to investigate that a little further and you realize, gosh, I see why they're not putting this news in here, because it doesn't make this entity look very good or that country look very good when they're in the middle of promoting an agenda. Well, what does that mean? Okay. Alright, so you've got what's going on in Syria. If they were putting what Syrians were saying up on the front page, and it was coming from the people that were actually there who knew why things were going on the way they were going on, if that's on the front page, well, that kind of defeats their case. Instead, you were getting staged deaths wrapped up in white paper saying that it was a chemical attack. And then, furthermore, leaked out, you realize that was fake, staged, and Al-Qaeda, who was funded by CIA, started putting in chemical stuff and started using them. So it defeated the whole red line. Okay. That's one instance. How often is the news skewed? Can you really trust it? Really? Come on, even when you were kids, if a teacher told you something, you question it, right? Well, that's not what I heard here. That's not what I read here. That's not what my dad said, or this. And you have every right to do so. You should. You should examine something. You should look at it. You should figure out a way to make it better. Because quite honestly, if you don't start taking a look at this stuff, you will get manipulated. And if you don't feel like you're being manipulated now, just look at how hard you work and look at the value of your time and think, really? This isn't what it was intended. Really? We slaved to the age of 90 and then drop over, having never had time to stop and smell the roses. Or perhaps you do, and you know what? Good for you. You figured it out for yourself. And that's awesome. But there's a lot of people that don't. Is it really meant to be that darn difficult? Well, I don't think it is. So, my thoughts are,